거리고. So the chant master actually is missing the connecting particle in saying, may the drum off. That off he's missing in Tibetan. Chonga Chempo, he says that may the drum sound of the drum dharma wheel, drum dharma. So if you just say the drum and not the sound of drum, then you might also have the sound of the fart. So today is the last day for our teaching, and this is the last day for our getting together. So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha, as the Heart Sutra says, all the Buddhas of the three times become enlightened, relying on the perfection of wisdom. And so, such a teaching, so with regard to the practice of the Heart Sutra, Master Nagarjuna says in the Ratnavali, for oneself and others, if you wish to attain enlightenment, you have to cultivate the bodhicitta. If you don't want to attain Buddhahood, then it's a different matter. But if you wish to become enlightened, you need to train in the path, cultivate the path leading to that goal. And the goal will not come about merely through prayers. And so the Buddha himself showed us the path, which is hinged on the understanding of dependent origination, the causality, and therefore we have the teachings on the basis of the teachings pertaining to the basis, path, and the result. And so, of course, the Buddha therefore taught the Four Noble Truths. And so, on the ground level, how things exist, we have emptiness. And so whether the Buddhas do appear in the world or not, emptiness will always be the ultimate reality of things. And therefore, the path, the true path, of course, which is not the ground level truth, but it is based on the basis, the reality of the basis. And therefore, the basis with regard to the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha gave teachings on the nature of the Four Truths. And then, secondly, he goes into the functionality of the four. And then, with regard to how to go about with the practice, he says, overcome the suffering, understand suffering and overcome its origin, and then apply the path to reach the cessation. And then he finally says that suffering must be known, but there's nothing to be known. Origin must be overcome, but there's nothing to be overcome, and so forth. And therefore, and then cessation must be actualized, but there's nothing to be actualized. And path must be cultivated. There's nothing to be cultivated. So what this shows is that at the end, finally, when you reach the goal, then there is nothing to be achieved, nothing to be overcome, and so forth. And therefore, with regard to the goal, the highest goal of enlightenment, the omniscient state of Buddhahood, the main cause of which is bodhicitta, and that is in turn has its root in compassion. And therefore, with regard to great compassion, Master Chandrakirti in his Madhyamaka Avatara praises it. In the beginning of his text, he pays homage to compassion. And so, with regard to this compassion, how do you actually cultivate it? you think of the sentient beings, all sentient beings across the expanse of the space. You don't just wish them to be free from suffering, but it is this great compassion is that which actually, with which you feel the responsibility to alleviate the suffering of other sentient beings. And therefore, you have to understand this suffering of the conditioned existent, pervasive suffering, mainly. And therefore, you have to first of all recognize it within oneself. And therefore, we have the practice of the determination to be free from samsara. And so, or the definite emergence, thought of definite emergence. So as long as you have this, the grasping at true existence of things, and then there is going to be its result, which is this the conditioning suffering. And so Rinpoche says that liberation means this freedom from this bondage of the conditioned existential suffering. And therefore, when you have this strong, the genuine wish to be free from this bondage, then you would have the sense of renunciation or the determination to be free. And therefore, this in turn is rooted in the since it's rooted in or the grasping a true existence, the suffering. Therefore, what we need is the wisdom for wisdom realizing selflessness or emptiness. And therefore, these three, the sense of bodhicitta, the sense of renunciation, and the understanding or insight into selflessness are the three principles, paths. So perhaps it is the tradition of Prabhu Ngawang Champa. So we'll do the. So I will do the bodhicitta ceremony at the end of this morning session, and so we know the verse of taking refuge and the bodhicitta, the usual verse. And so the bodhicitta is the source of all happiness, well-being, the temporary as well as the lasting, long-lasting, long-term goals. Why we are so tense and bound by suffering and so forth is because of this self-cherishing attitude. If you look around ourselves, our friends and so forth, people who are very selfish, I mean, we can also find, we'll also always have something to talk about that person. Something wrong has gone to this person, whereas someone who is more compassionate, open-minded towards others, then they are more, they're happier and so forth. As Shantideva says in the Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, decisively that without, unless we exchange your happiness with the suffering of others, leave alone attaining Buddhahood, even in samsara you will not have happiness. And so if we look even at the followers of the religions, other religious traditions, for example, the Christians, there are people who actually do religious practice, but because of selfishness, only think about themselves, they actually kill each other. And then amongst the Buddhists, there are, for example, in Burma these days, some Buddhists actually beating up the Muslims and Hindus and so forth. And so bodhicitta is the root, the fundamental source of all goodness in this life as well as in the future, the short term as well as the long term. And therefore, this bodhicitta, as I have been talking about it in the last days also, it's a very precious principle. And so with regard to this cultivation of it, there are the two systems, equaling and exchanging oneself with others, and the seven-point instruction, cause and effective instruction. And so as we find also in Master Nagarjuna's text, as well as Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, we have all these reasons that are used to prove the benefit of bodhicitta. And so we can also see the benefit with our own eyes. And so what obstructs the cultivation of bodhicitta is the self-cherishing attitude, which is also which is also complemented by, for us, for example, the grasping at true existence. Of course, arahats have already reached nirvana, but still they have some degree of selfishness. And therefore, we need to cultivate both bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness to reduce these cherishing, the self-cherishing attitude and also grasping at true existence. And so with this, with the help of cherishing others more than oneself, we can reduce the self-cherishing attitude. And with the understanding of emptiness, selflessness, we can reduce this grasping at true existence. And therefore, Master Nagarjuna in Ratnavali, as I already quoted, says that these three principles, the bodhicitta, compassion and the wisdom realizing emptiness are the three principal causes for omniscience. And then when we do daily yoga practice, we cannot do that. We cannot hold on to some kind of a concrete, kind of absolute I, and then visualize ourselves as deities without understanding, having any understanding of emptiness. And therefore, to do the daily yoga practice, we must have the understanding of emptiness, dissolving ourselves into emptiness, and then rising into them. And of course, with regard to daily yoga practices and also the Tomo, and then also the projecting the mind out of the consciousness out of the body and transferring it into another body and so forth. These are also in the non-Buddhist practices. And therefore, with regard to the both bodhicitta, the main practice of bodhicitta comes through the Master Nagarjuna, and the detailed explanation and the practices of cultivation of bodhicitta is found in Bodhisattvacharya Avatara. So since the 8th century, there's never been any greater text than the Bodhisattvacharya Avatara for training our mind on bodhicitta. And so, therefore, bodhicitta principally is the most important practice. So we'll do a bodhicitta ceremony later at the end of this first session, morning session. And so we are on the fourth type of hell realm. So minor hells. It is said so a venerable Belden by the name went to see Moggallana in Rajagriha, and what he saw was in the space a huge body, like a story, a house with several stories, called equal to the height of that kind of a house, set on fire. And then there was someone actually wailing and called from that house. And then what it was that it was a being who used to be a butcher. Butcher had been born in that as that kind of being. And then on the other side of on the one side of that person. On the other side of that scene, there was a scene where this monk saw some bones called stringed together, and and piled up as high as a mountain to the east. And that was being eaten by animals and birds and so forth. And then the being was actually moaning in pain. And that was said to be the reincarnation of a student of that the butcher. And then there was another scene where the venerable monk saw that not far from that place, a huge fruit, which was as if kind of tied to a pole, attached to a pole, and as it moved, it had great pain, and then it again cried in pain, and that was the reincarnation of someone who reared cattle. And so these are some of the minor hell beings. And then when one Arya being by the name of Sangagupta went to the oceans, near the ocean shore, he saw beings who looked like, in the shape of pillars or walls, and then also wood, leaves, flowers, and fruits, ropes, and a broom, and then also containers, puzzles, and so forth. And so these are beings also of the minor hell realms. They were born as these because of spitting and clearing their snots at the monasteries. And also giving what belongs to the Sangha to other people who were not Sangha members. And so these are various. So there are various kinds of effects or ripening effects of such practices, inappropriate, wrong doings. So with regard to His Holiness is commenting on mention here about some water. Unless this text is talking about some other body of water that is not, which is not on this earth, this kind of explanation or description will not tally with what the water bodies that we have on this earth. So with regard to the animals, suffering of animals, there are 5 main sufferings as we can see them. Preying on one another. For example, the small birds being preyed by bigger birds, like hawks and so forth. So there are animals living in the oceans, such as the crocodiles and then shell fish and other fishes and or frogs and so forth. So they have they are in all kinds of shapes and colors. The number is countless, like the grains of barley, and after making alcohol, when they stick together, so they are as numerous as them, the grains in them. So we see very poor dogs around the place here. So when we see them, we feel quite sad, don't we? And then these animals also cry in pain when we hit them. So this gives pain. Some kind of an animal in the water suffers. For example, when some kind of crocodile or something falls asleep, it says that many smaller animals actually come towards it from afar, and it pierces its body, and then and eats it, and then it wakes up, and when it wakes up, it feels the pain, and therefore it rubs its body against the rocks in the ocean, and then such that there would be bleeding, so much bleeding that the whole ocean would become red. And then other sea monsters are said to be eaten by many other smaller animals. And then they come on the surface of the water. And at that time, then Yama, many called messengers of Yama would come forth and chop its body up with axe and so forth. And then, although they are born as animals, they suffer the miseries and pains of the hell realm. And so, for details, we have to read sutras. So in certain Tibetan areas and also Himalayan regions, there are some places where people actually do animal sacrifice. Although they do recite Om Mani Padme Hum mantra and do say Buddhist prayers. And then there are some places where I have seen actually a movie of it, where people actually put up animals live on a fire, and actually as a practice of sacrifice, they burn the animals alive while pretending to be making incense offering. They put the animal on the incense, structures for the incense offering, and then burn them alive. And so, unless they are non-Buddhists, then if they are Buddhists, I would say that they should not be done. And then I've heard that People's Liberation Army soldiers actually catch animals, and then they actually remove the skin, the skin of the animal, and then let it go. So how much pain the animal must go through in such a situations? How sad. And then there's a suffering of thirst and hunger, and then there's suffering of stupidity and ignorance. And then with regards to Garuda, I don't think it is there was such a Garuda as we usually find the description of in our text. In Indonesia, there is some bird which is also named Garuda. So it's a huge bird. We don't know whether the name Garuda actually was borrowed from Indonesian bird, this bird in Indonesia, or it was actually borrowed by the Indonesians from the bird, the huge bird that we find described in our texts. We have to actually research these things. So the Indonesian airline is also called Garuda. And then the animals also have the suffering of being used for transportation and also plowing land and so forth. So in my own generation, there was a person of the monk of Namgyal Monastery named Chenze Goshak. He used to actually hold the parasol over me. So he died, and then he was born as a spirit. And when he was alive, he used to invite Jabje Trijang Rinpoche a lot. And after his death, he actually possessed somebody. And when I was in Nobulenka, Trijang Rinpoche was there at one time. And so the chant master of Namgyal Monastery went to see Trijang Rinpoche at that time. And therefore, because when Chenze Goshak's spirit actually possessed somebody, and the chant master actually took that person to Trijang Rinpoche, the person could not enter the room at all, Trijang Rinpoche's room, because there was a lamp always being offered on the altar. When it saw the lamp, it couldn't, and therefore actually, the Chenze Goshak himself, the spirit himself, said that I wanted to go to see Trijang Rinpoche. Please take me there. So he was only sitting in a dark area in the room, and at the door and couldn't go inside Tshang Rinpoche's room. And so Tshang Rinpoche had to come out to him in the dark. And Tshang Rinpoche had asked what was the reason, what actually caused him to be born as a spirit. And they found out that in Podala there used to be a small shrine for a Zen spirit. And he was fond of that shrine, and he actually had offered, when he was questioned, when the spirit was questioned, he had said that he had offered made a small shoe and offered it to him, to the Zen shrine. And therefore, as this Chenze Gosha died, the Zen, the spirit, had actually took him and kept him under his control, and therefore, as if it must have been like this Zen spirit was helping Chenze Gosha when he died, but actually he was born as a ghost. And so I don't know if Chenze Gosha became a negative kind of negative spirit or not, but those who worship Dilgyal too much, then there is this danger of them being reborn in their next birth as a spirit, as well. And so. So if I tell them, of course, they will not listen. They will say that, oh, I'm lying. But there is this kind of danger. So we have all these kinds of animals with different shapes and the way they live. And so forth. We have all kinds of animals making their own living. So on the one hand, if you would have to say that these are because of Creator God, they cannot come about without, accidentally. So scientific explanation could be that they're explained on the basis of the evolution. But unless we actually base these kind of explanations of the varieties of animals and so forth on the basis on the karmic theory, it would be difficult to explain. So the number of galaxies are numerous, but they are said to be initially have begun with the Big Bang. In cosmology, the cosmologists would actually have very confident kind of explanation to that. And Big Bang, with regards to the Big Bang, the scientists are only aware of one Big Bang. So the Big Bang happened because of an immense energy that exploded, and so the energy itself must come from the particles in it, and these in turn must come from some physical things, and therefore they must have previous causes, and therefore the trichilocosm and so forth that were mentioned in our scripture also cannot have any beginning. So either we have to explain the whole workings of the universe and the formation of the universe and so forth on the basis of through karmic theory or the theory of a creator God. So if we look at the animals, there are people who are really doing detailed kind of research on animals, and if we actually learn from these research documents and so forth, we'll know so much about animals as well. And then what we as human beings also do is that to obtain pearl, we kill the shell animals. And then we also kill elephants for tusk and ivory. And for the horn, and also for horn, we also kill deer, and for skin, we kill leopards and tiger, and also otter. So there are many different examples given for musk. We kill the musk deer, and then for meat we kill wild and antelopes and so forth, and also the wild ass. And also the animals, the cattle, and our so in order to go to Buddhahood, although we may, it says that there seems to be a scolding to us. It says, as I said, quoted the Maitreya prayer, Bodhicitta, I pay homage to Bodhicitta, which averts us from lower realms and leads us to higher realms and so forth. So even if we meditate on Bodhicitta, cultivate Bodhicitta, even for a moment, it helps to purify so much negativity that we have collected over many long period of time, and also it helps to accumulate so much merit. And so we are thinking of all sentient beings. With the intention to help all sentient beings, we intend to become a Buddha. Of course, and then we could do the confession practice with all sentient beings in mind to help them. Only with the selfish motive, it's not going to be so powerful to purify negativities. And then with regard to taking refuge and bodhicitta, we need to think really, sincerely about others more than just oneself. When thinking about bodhicitta, we feel moved, and that's something we need to experience. So in order to have a good bodhicitta practice and experience, there's no, without understanding of emptiness, the view of emptiness, as I said before, so you want to actually to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, but somebody comes to you and says, you want to attain Buddhahood. Where is Buddhahood? And you don't have any reason to prove, to explain to the person, and therefore you might swear, I swear there is. You might say that I swear there is. I swear by the three jewels that there is, and enlightened Buddhahood. And then it Kampas usually say Dikpa Kur, like to swear, and they might also say this. And so if you really know what Buddhahood is through reason and understanding, then of course you'll be able to explain them. So we meet so many different people with different ideas, different thoughts, and challenging thoughts. Therefore we need to really have good answers to them. And so, in our text, we find mention of all kinds of reasonings, arguments, which are used as arguments against non-Buddhist traditions. Those may have also evolved because of the challenges which were put to the Buddhists by the non-Buddhists in the past. If we just therefore, we had the Nalanda masters and the Nalanda University making such big strides in the understanding of Buddha's words. So, if they had only followed faith, this would not have happened. And therefore, we need to study the classic, the great texts in the scripture to really understand and have gain the knowledge of attain Buddhahood and so forth through reason. So here, we might pretend to be, we might look for the different. So Shamar Rinpoche here says that we pretend to be looking for the cause and conditions that leads to Buddhahood, but unless we actually know how we lead ourselves to lower realms of existence and so forth, then there is no way we can have that kind of wish. So if you are able to have a strong wish to attain Buddhahood and the liberation, then you will actually want to use this human life properly without wasting it. Even if it may be a day's practice, you will actually not waste this kind of life. So, of course, I'm not saying I have great intelligence. I'm a very intelligent person, but the way my way of thinking is along the line of the in line with the beings of greater intellectual faculty. So if we look, if we could actually make some move from the more important points, then we could compare it with how we can make some transformation and change if we have a more narrower kind of perspective than the more broader perspective. You should compare these two and see which gives you more understanding and moves you greatly. So here it says that for us beginners, we have to strive in the practices which avert us from the lower realms of existence. So it's not just the keeping the 10 precept of 10 moral ethics. So what is taught in Abhidhammakosha and some other texts, we have to, it's quite, it's a matter of doubt whether we should take them literally or not. When we talk about the, it is said that below 32,000 yojanas below the Vajrasana, Bodh Gaya, is said to be some hell realm. So if we have to actually bore through the earth and cover that much distance, we might reach America. So of course, we should, if there is the Mount Meru as taught in the Abhidharma, people go up in the space and nobody sees it. And then above the Mount Meru, there are said to be the four guardians of the world and the universe and so forth. But it's difficult. So, of course, the animals are something which we can see. And then there are, with regards to the hungry ghosts, there are some spirits which possess people. And so it is clear indication that there are spirits, non-humans, which are also sentient beings. So the main abode of the hungry ghost is said to be underneath the... And so if you dig underneath, it says the Vaishali, 500 yojanas under the ground. Then there are those of the what is known as the city named Kapila, which is the city of the hungry ghosts. And so the chief of these hungry ghosts is said to be Shinji Chogi Gyalpo. So his name is the great Yama Raja. So with regard to the story about the Chenze Goshak, the Namgyal monk who was born as the spirit. So Jabji Tian Rinpoche had said that to offer a sur, burnt food, and when the monks actually made this offering, they burned some incense and some tsampa and so forth to make the sur offering to that spirit. Although they had already started burning, but the spirit was not doing anything. But then, as soon as Jabji Shinyan Rinpoche actually dedicated that food to the spirit, immediately because of that, the spirit came forth and sniffed the incense, called smoke and so forth, as if it had something really great to eat and relish. So there are such things. And so this kind of chief of the hungry ghost ram is propelled by, the life is propelled by some negative actions, and it is as a completing karma. There are virtuous karmas also. And therefore, they can enjoy some called a very happy life as well, which is like the life of a god. And then around this chief, hungry ghost, then there are retinues. Who suffer all kinds of suffering. And for details, look at the sutras, read the sutras. And then there are hungry ghosts who are scattered, such as Zens who roam in the human realm. Zen, Gyalpo, then these are different spirits. Zen, Gyalpo, Senmo, Thirang, and Shinde, like those ghosts, So what they suffer are basically hunger and thirst, and also heat and cold, and then tiredness and exhaustion and fear. So there are these 6 types of main sufferings that they undergo. So there are 3 different kinds of hungry ghosts who undergo the sufferings of thirst and hunger. And one is those which have the obscuration in the food itself. So when they feel thirsty, they run towards something that they see as water or oceans and lakes. But as soon as they are near that and they want to drink the water, what they see are beings who come forth with swords and spears and so forth. And they block the path to what they see as the river and lakes, and therefore they can't drink them. And then some, from afar, they see some very pleasant rivers flowing, and then wanting to drink water from there, with great excitement, they go there. But as soon as they reach there, these bodies of water turn into pus and blood, and also feces and so forth. Although this happens, but then because they are so thirsty, unbearably thirsty, they still want to drink the water, drink them. But as soon as they have this wish, these liquids also vanish completely. And they only see the dry basis of those rivers. And then they feel despair. And then with regard to the internal obscuration to the food and drink, because of their negative karmas, what they have is their mouth is as the opening of their mouth is as small as the eye of the needle. And also their throat is as fine as a needle. But they have a body which is as huge as a mountain. But their limbs are as slim as a blade of grass. And so, because they have all these unfavorable conditions within themselves, they have great suffering to find and not being able to find food and drink. Even if they find some small food and drink, they do not actually go into their mouth. And even if they go into their mouth, they cannot pass through their throat. And even if these food and drink are able to pass through their throat, they are not able to feel filled up. They are not able to feel full. And then their limbs, their feet, cannot actually carry the weight of their body. And so they have such immense suffering. And then with regards to the obscuration within the food and the drink, so a hungry ghost named a string of flames. When it eats food and takes drinks, the food actually sets into fire, catches fire, and the drink catches the food and drink catch fire, and then they burn their internal organs. And so, instead of fulfilling and overcoming their thirst, quenching their thirst and hunger, they have this kind of immense suffering. And some feel so hungry and thirsty, and as they are not able to find any other food or drink, they actually pluck their own the veins and the muscles and put them in their mouth, in their own mouth. And because of that, they have pain, which is unbearable. So they are not able to enjoy any good food and drinks. So all these hungry ghosts are overcome with hunger and thirst. And then they become so frail, emaciated, and their body looks like a stump of burnt log. And their face is covered with hair, and their lips so dry that they lick with their tongue. And then they become so despondent, and they go anywhere they can. And then there is also the suffering of cold and heat. And so most of the hungry ghosts during the summer, during the I think autumn, when So during the summer, when there's heat, they feel cold, but when there is a slight cool breeze blowing, they feel hot. So with regards to the taking of refuge within the context of the beings of small scope, you are you fear the sufferings of lower realms of existence, whereas within the context of the beings with intermediate scope, what you fear is the samsara as a whole, and therefore take refuge. And therefore, the main Buddhist practice of taking refuge should be the way of taking refuge according to the beings of the intermediate scope. Not just fearing the suffering of lower realms of existence, but the whole of samsara, and then wishing to be free from the samsara as a whole. So what where we are is this second outline, which is relying on the means for a means of happiness in the next lives. So taking refuge is the greatest door to enter the Dharma. So this has two parts: the taking refuge, which is the sacred door to entering into the Dharma, and then the faith of confidence or faith, which is the root of all well-being. So the first has three parts to it: recognizing the identifying the cause of taking refuge, and how we take refuge, and having taken refuge, what to train, the stages of training. So generally speaking, it says, with regard to the first one, generally speaking, when people in the worldly people become sick, then when they face some danger in their life through sickness and also spirits or ghosts and so forth, then they tend to take refuge in the three jewels, in the three supreme jewels. So within the context of the Lamrim, the stages of the path, we find mention of the ways of taking refuge by the beings of small scope, intermediate, and the great scope. So of these three, the first, the author goes through the training of the mind in the shared path the path which is shared with the beings of small scope or small capacity. And so the worldly gods and others are not able to save us from the lower realms of existence and samsara. But in order to really do the Dharma practice, unless we have this kind of human rebirth, there's no way we can cultivate the path for higher rebirth and the definite goodness. Mainly, we have to identify that what is the definite goodness, and therefore we need to actually create a cause with which we can feel confident that we have the full cause for higher rebirth as well. And therefore, we have the practice of avoiding the 10 non-virtuous actions, or keeping the morality of the 10 virtuous actions. And so, this for now can be considered as the path to cessation, which is the freedom from the lower realms of existence. And therefore, we need to take refuge. And as Ayadeva says, first, avoid the 10 non-virtuous or unmeritorious actions. And therefore, in order to be able to do that well, we cannot just feel confident by doing these practices, but we need also to go into the root of the negative emotions, which is the grasping at some true existence. And therefore, Ayadeva says, in the middle, avert the grasping at self. And therefore, we would think that unless we are able to overcome these negative emotions, we will never be able to go out of samsara as well. And therefore, when we think along these lines, by understanding selflessness, we'll be able to see that there is a possibility for us to reach the goal of liberation. And therefore, to have a course which is stable course for the higher rebirth, we need to have the understanding of selflessness. And therefore, this teaching of selflessness is found. We will see that it is found only in the teaching of the Buddha. And therefore, the Buddha, we can take refuge in the Buddha, and then the Sangha. And so, in order to be able to avert the non-meritorious actions continuously, we need also to apply this teaching which is found in this same verse, in the middle, avert this grasping at self. Because without that, then because of some, if we hold on to some kind of a Atman theory, then what will happen is we may be able to go up to the peak of cyclic existence, but then we'll fall back into some the lower realms again. And so, in order for that not to happen, we need to have the understanding of selflessness. So none other than the three jewels can save us from the samsara and the lower realms of existence. So themselves bound in the samsara's prison, which how can these worldly gods save us, give us refuge from samsara? So, of course, the very active state of desire RAM attachment may be subdued or through the non-Buddhist path, but so which shows that the practice of shamatha is something common to non-Buddhist tradition. But because of the lacking the understanding of selflessness, they are not able to lead them out of themselves out of samsara. So, with regard to the Buddha being, we describe the Buddha as being someone free from all faults and having all being replete with all excellent qualities. But of course, non-Buddhist practitioners and followers would also talk the same about their own God or higher power. And so it says that the three jewels who are free from the Buddha or the Bhagwans or the enlightened ones, the Bhagwans are the only ones who can actually help us out of samsara, and they are the infallible. The Buddhas are the infallible refuge for us because of being free from all faults and being complete with all the realizations and the quality of purification of all negativities. And then the path of seeing. And then the Dharma is also the infallible refuge for us, because there are the truths pertaining to enlightenment, which is the freedom from the negativities that are to be overcome by the path of seeing and by the path of meditation. And then these the qualities, those who are whose mind stream are imbued with these qualities of the cessation and the true cessation and true path, are also the infallible refuges for us. In other words, those of the Sangha, Arya Sangha, Arya beings. So these three objects of refuge are our sole objects of refuge, the three jewels. So with regard to the fivefold path, of course there are the fivefold path of the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and then the Mahayana path. And then it goes through, the teaching says that we need to avoid the two extremes of luxury and also too much deprivation of food and so forth, but staying in the middle. So practice of modesty. So the text goes through the 37 practices, which are 37 factors for enlightenment. So it says that during the small, medium, and the great or the big path of accumulation of the Shravakas, the practitioners can actually possess huge, much realization as well as the purification of the negativities, these qualities. And then at the path of preparation, these qualities are advanced further. And during the path of preparation, as the practitioner progresses along these 4 stages, which are called the heat, peak, patience, and the supreme dharma, an insight into the 4 noble truths, the reality of the 4 noble truths, the wisdom which is gained through meditation upon these 4 noble truths increases progressively higher, deeper and deeper. And then the vision of the clarity of the 16 qualities, 16 attributes or characteristics of the 4 noble truths also increases progressively along these during these 4 stages. And then the opposites of the mistaken views about these the attributes of the 4 noble truths also decrease ever more. And then with regard to the 5 faculties, so 5 powers and 5 powers and 5 forces, or they attain great qualities, immeasurable or inconceivable qualities with regard to these as well. And then when they actually pass from the supreme dharma, which is the 4th stage of the path of preparation, when they pass from there to the path of seeing, the 16 characteristics of the 4 noble truths, the suchness or the reality of them are seen directly, and because of that, they are able to, the Arya being is able to overcome 112 different types of negativities which are to be overcome by the path of seeing. The 112 of them within which are the negative emotions of the 3 realms of existence. And then the actions of body and speech, which are motivated by wrong views or bad views, and also their called rebirth into the lower realms of existence would be cut because of overcoming the negativities which are to be overcome by this path of seeing. And so if the seed of these negative karmas and the also negative karmas for birth into these lower realms of existence are completely uprooted. So in the sutras it says, seeing the Dharma, hearing the Dharma, being aware of the Dharma, or cognizing the Dharma, and realizing the Dharma. So these four are synonymous with the path, the four stages of the path of seeing. Oh, sorry. They are synonymous with what are known as in the text as the patience of Dharma, knowledge of Dharma, subsequent patience, and subsequent knowledge. Page number all shara chasam. The text goes through some stories about Shariputra and other arahats. So after reaching the path of, after attaining the path of seeing, then in order to overcome, in order to uproot the innate kind of negative emotions, one further familiarizes with this realization of the suchness directly and overcomes those negative emotions which are to be overcome by the path of meditation, such as the path of meditation, which is the greater of the great, and so forth. So when you actually reach when you actually develop within yourself the actual antidote to the negative emotions, the actual antidote of the great of the great negative emotions of the path of which are to be overcome by the path of seeing, then you have actually entered or attained the path of seeing for the first time. So in the sutras there are mentions of the great qualities of the Buddha, and then there are arahats of the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. And then the Buddha has his universal compassion towards all sentient beings equally, without any partiality. And therefore, so here what he said is, as claiming, professing yourself to be practitioners of Mahayana, we tend sometimes to look down upon and despise those practitioners who are following the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhayana, but that must not be done. Having met with our root guru, we should also hold them as our objects of refuge, in order to train ourselves on the path to omniscience as well. So the text says that people like us who are bound by bound by the bondage of our karma and delusions, compared to us, the arahats are definitely our objects of refuge, because they have overcome all the negative emotions with which we have been accustomed since time beginningless. And they have cut the cycle of existence, going round and round in the cycle of existence, and therefore they have liberated themselves from this kind of fearful existence. And then they also know the complete path to the complete path, or the means to liberate ourselves from the fear of cyclic existence. And therefore, we should make a supplication or pray to them as well. And then we are now going over the Bodhisattvas, Bodhisattva Sangha. So according to Master, the unmistaken understanding of Master Nagarjuna, even the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddha Arya beings, they are great yogis of the Madhyamaka philosophical understanding of emptiness, because of understanding emptiness, which is free from the extremes, directly. And therefore they know without mistake the two truths. And so we should also think about their understanding of their qualities from this from this perspective. So if you know this kind of points, then you'll be able to free yourself from the misconception that someone on the path of the Shravaka yana and someone who holds are the Shravaka philosophical view being same. This is a mistake. And therefore, one will actually be able to stop oneself from denigrating the arahats, who are like firm, a gold mountain full of integrity, and denigrating them. So one will actually avoid accumulating very grave negative karmas and moral downfalls in relation to them. So in certain sutras there are mentions that the arahats and the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas do not have compassion, or they only can serve sentient beings, they only serve sentient beings partially and so forth. But this has to be understood. In the text it says, this has to be understood that they are inferior compared to the bodhisattvas, who are able to actually shoulder the responsibility of liberating others and sentient beings. So when you actually are able to cultivate and develop within yourself this genuine sense to the sense of wishing, or sense to the genuine intention or the feeling for to attain the enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, which is in turn called induced by love and compassion, and actually feeling determined to take the responsibility of liberating other sentient beings who are full of suffering, sentient beings who are as infinite as the expanse of space, then you would be become someone worthy for even the gods and humans to be called the great being who is a child of the victorious ones. So as soon as you develop a genuine bodhicitta within yourself, it says that there are those of the negative emotions, much of the negative emotions would be purified, and you will have a great stride of accumulating merit. and there are many other qualities that will develop in you. And especially once you have taken the engaging bodhisattva, or developed the engaging bodhisattva, or taken bodhisattva vows, then even while you sleep or you are drunk and so forth, you are in all kinds of unrestrained kind of practices, you will still accumulate merit, like the expanse of the space. And these merits will never deplete, and will continue. You will continue to accumulate merit. And then you would have actually started the path to you would have started that would be the start of the three countless eons of accumulating merit and becoming enlightened after three countless eons. So during the process of your developing the path to leading to that, you would and then when you see, when you reach the path of a superior being, an Arya being, where you are able to see, by seeing the emptiness directly, then you will have immeasurable or different types of qualities that you will attain. For example, at the first Bodhisattva ground, within a moment, it is said that you'll be able to go into this meditative absorption, 100 different meditative absorption, and also come out of it within a moment. And you'll be able to see 100 different Buddhas and listen to their teachings. And then you also understand, you'll know that these Buddhas bless you, and you will have the ability to, or the ability to shake 100 worlds. And to travel to 100 different pure lands of Buddhas. And then you'll be able to illuminate 100 different worlds. And through your miracle, you'll be able to ripen hundreds sentient beings. You'll be able to sustain your life over 100 kalpas or eons. And then your wisdom mind will be able to actually pierce through or see through what has happened in the past 100 eons and future 100 eons. And then you'll be able to open the gateway to Dharma for those to be tamed. And you'll be able to manifest in 100 bodies. And with each body having 100 bodhisattvas. And so there are these 112 different qualities that you would attain when you attain the first bodhisattva ground. And then at the second, during the second bodhisattva ground, you would have 1,012. And at the third ground, the 12,000 and the second ground. In the third ground, at the third ground, you will attain 120,000 qualities. The fourth ground, 10 million different 120 million, and then at the fifth ground, a 1,000 times that, and then at this and then at the sixth ground, you will have still further qualities that will develop in you. It's 100,000 of the 10 million. The previous one is 1,000 10 million, and this was 100,000 10 million. And then on the seventh ground, you have over 1 billion, I think. And so above that is the qualities, the bodhisattva's qualities are inconceivable, uncountable, it says. For example, at the eighth ground of bodhisattva, it says the qualities would be equal to the number of grains of dust, which covers the 3,000 world 300,000 world systems, and so forth. And apart from this, it says further, when you attain the bodhisattva grounds, you would have overcome. You would overcome all the sufferings of this sufferings that come through birth, aging, sickness, and death, which are compelled by the karma and delusions. So it's, the text says, if you wish to know in greater detail about the qualities of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you should read Avatamsaka Sutra and others, as well as the Abhisamaya Alamkara, Sutra Alamkara, Bodhisattva Bhumi, Jatakamala, and then Shiksha Samuchaya, and also the other texts by Shantideva, Bodhisattvacharya Avatara, and so forth. These only by reading these great classic scriptures, you would be able to find the great stories of the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas. And then the third here is the quality of the Buddhas. So although there are many different ways of differentiating the qualities of the Buddhas or enumerating the Buddhas of qualities, you should actually think or contemplate on the basis of the qualities of the body, speech, mind, and the enlightened activity, these four. And with regard to the qualities of a Buddha, there are the major and minor marks. For example, the sole of the feet being adorned with a thousand-spoked a wheel. With all the rim and the hub and so forth, complete and intact, like a gold wheel, a Dharma wheel. So the wheel on the sole of the feet is very clear with all these rims and so forth in great detail. And very clear. It's they are in like a three-dimensional kind of shape, in three-dimensional, and then both the palms and the sole. Both the sole of the feet are full, and there is no hollow space left. And when they are put on the ground, they are very even. And also they are like, they will appear like the belly of a turtle. And then with regard to the toes, so from the big toe onwards, it says that there are no empty spaces, space left between the toes. And while that is the case, you can also, if you put a ring to these toes, also they will also you'll be able to do so. And then the toes are also both the toes and the fingers. Yeah, the toes and fingers are also connected by like webs. So perhaps we'll do the bodhicitta ceremony in the afternoon, Holiness says. So the people may be tired by now. And so the toes and the fingers are connected by these webs, like a web of at the feet of King Swan. And then the color of the nails are all like copper color and very shiny. So the body of the Buddha, with all these 80 different minor marks, is so beautiful that they are like nectar to the eyes. And just at the sight of this body will leave a seed, will create a seed within you for liberation. So in the sutra it says, those who see the body of a Buddha or hears his speech becomes someone fortunate to reach nirvana. And even when a being comes under the feet of a Buddha, for example, the insects or small creatures, they may die 7 days later with great bliss and will be reborn in heavenly realms. So we can see the qualities of the Buddha through these illustrations. Although the Chakravartin kings as well as the bodhisattvas on the grounds, the 10 grounds, do have some form of the major and minor marks, but the Buddha's marks and the major and minor marks are without any defect, free from any unfavorable conditions. And then with regard to the beauty and the clarity of these major marks and major and minor marks, they are especially complete, perfect. And so they are called, they far exceed the major and minor marks of those bodhisattvas and the Chakravartin kings. And then with regard to the cause of these in the Ratnavali by Master Nagarjuna, so the merit of all the merit of the Shravakas and all the worldly beings put together 10 times that would give that would be equal to the course of one a hair on the body of a Buddha. And then the merit of all the body on the hair on the body of a Buddha, 100 times that is a cause of Beje, one a minor mark, and so forth. So in this way, you know, the multiplication of these merits would be infinite. And they are beyond our thought, it says. My major mark is the result of mainly, it says mainly, the wisdom together with the, which is combined with the merit, which is called cultivated over 3 countless eons. So for the major mark and major and minor marks, if this is the case, then you cannot. It says you cannot actually fathom the course of them. So many scholars do accept this. And then receiving and seeing off one's Lama back and forth will give rise to the hands and the feet being adorned with the Dharma wheel. And so, and then whatever vows you may have taken, keeping them firmly and called purely, will give rise to the effect, such as the sole of the feet being even. And so these, in this way, giving a particular cause for a particular quality or the marks or of a great being of a Buddha in a Buddha. Said to be the main causes, not it's giving the main causes for these different major and minor marks. So with regard to compassion, you have compassion towards the sentient beings, thinking about their suffering on the one hand, and also by thinking about the causes that they are creating for their own suffering, you can feel the compassion towards them. So with regard to the qualities of the Buddha, it says that there are all these qualities, and so the qualities of the Buddha, so from whichever angle you look at the qualities of the Buddha, you can see that they are like space, endless, limitless. It's just limitless, and therefore there's no need to mention how much, how great the collections of merit and wisdom would be if you talk about collecting them over 3 countless eons. And so it is said in the sutra called Tebe Topke Bala Jugbe Chagye Do, the sutra seal of seal which seal or gesture which leads you into the generation of the powerful power of faith, says that each of these each of the major and minor marks of a Buddha, because they are in nature this as the exalted wisdom mind of a Buddha. Therefore, each of them can actually see the all objects of knowledge. So in Japan, they have green tea, and they also have some tea ceremony. So when they ask me, is it tasty? Is it good? I tell them that when I drink them, thinking that I'm taking a medicine, then it's actually tasty. So otherwise, it's not really tasty tea. So I'm taking some medicine here. And so sometimes the Buddha emanates as appears as taking birth or being born, and in certain fields, in certain worlds, and in other worlds, while in some other worlds, the Buddha assumes attaining enlightenment, and still in others he assumes turning the wheel of Dharma, and yet in others he would also assume appear as cultivating the path or training on the path of the bodhisattvas, and at some others he would assume passing away. And so there are so many different ways in which the Buddhas can appear to help sentient beings with their bodies. So here there is mention of Mari Pakjagisa, which is to literally means the ground of the ignorance, the imprint of ignorance, which is said to be a cause So So, with regard to the enlightened activity, which is which continues forever without any break. So it is said that the enlightened activity of the Buddha can never stop, but it continues. So because of having overcome all the negativities, all defilements completely, and then, of course, the serving others would be for the serving others will also to serve others. The enlightened activities would come ceaselessly. So because the Buddhas have actually passed through the Bodhisattva grounds, which actually culminate in that final, the ultimate Buddhahood, and then the accumulations of the merit and wisdom leads to the birth, abiding, and also advancing of the qualities of the 10 Bodhisattva grounds further and further. And so because of these excellent causes, because the qualities of the Buddha, the enlightened activities never cease. So with regard to this ultimate enlightenment, the ultimate fruit that you attain in Buddhahood, so that enlightened state, the supreme enlightenment, has no center or periphery, and it's vast. And because of that too, because of attaining that kind of quality, the enlightened activity is ceaseless. After attaining enlightenment, the Buddha also says, because he sees that all sentient beings have the essence of Tathagata or Sugata Hridaya, he embraces all sentient beings. So this Tathagata Garbha that is within the sentient beings must be cleared of the stains which are adventitious. And because of that, and then also because the compassion of the Buddhas always shine forth to dispel those veils within the mind of sentient beings. Because this compassion, the great compassion, always shines forth, which is a condition for eliminating these stains. And the Buddhas always think of doing that. Therefore, showing the path to to think of always showing the path to the sentient beings with great compassion for them to actually uncover those, take off this cover of the stains. Therefore, their enlightened activities are ceaseless. And so the 10 Bodhisattva grounds which have been given earlier and just been given, and also the 2 accumulations of merit and wisdom, the great enlightenment, and the realm of sentient beings, and then the stains of afflictive emotions, and also the great compassion. So with these 6 qualities or 6 points, these are sequentially, respectively, and called said to be analogous to to an ocean, sun, space, mine, treasure mine, cloud, and wind in Mahayana Uttara Tantra. And then with regard to the enlightened activities, the text also goes through the story of Angulimala. Although he had killed 999 people, where he was supposed to kill 1,000 human beings, due to the Buddha's enlightened deed, he was averted from committing the last act of killing the 1,000th person, and then he purified his negativities and became an arahat. So in short, it says, generally speaking, the Buddha has accumulated merit and wisdom for over 3 countless eons, and particularly he had accumulated these 2 through the 10 Bodhisattva grounds. And progressively these 2 called advanced, and also the Buddhas have pledged to liberate sentient beings, and made prayers and so on, through which he had actually gathered the excellent courses, which are like infinite. And then the qualities of the enlightenment. The great enlightenment is vast, infinite, like the space, and therefore it will never. It will continue forever, like the expanse of the space, which is infinite. And then the sentient beings that who are to be liberated are also infinite or limitless. And then because the empty nature of the mind of sentient beings and the empty nature of the Buddhas are seen to be the same, and therefore the Buddhas know that the sentient beings can be liberated. And then at all times the Buddhas have compassion towards all sentient beings to liberate them through whatever, through the suitable, whatever enlightened deed is suitable to them. And therefore, the enlightened deeds of the Buddhas always radiate towards sentient beings ceaselessly. So, because of these reasons, it says it is easy that we can see the enlightened deed of the Buddhas continue until until samsara is emptied of sentient beings. So if you can understand these enlightened deeds, the ceaseless enlightened activity of the victorious ones well, the past Buddhas who have already gone, and so you would not doubt that the past Buddhas have any difficulty in liberating sentient beings, nor should you have any doubt that the Buddhas kind of procrastinate their enlightened deeds to help liberate sentient beings. So if you, from your side, can actually have this single-pointed faith, then just as you request the Buddhas to
Oh,